see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Koki Riley in 15 minutes. LSU baseball starts its Texas week coming up at 7 o'clock tonight against Dallas Baptist. We'll get a report from East Texas with Koki, who will be there throughout the duration of this trip for LSU. We got What If Wednesday coming up. LSU atop the SEC recruiting rankings by On3 Sports. We'll tell you about that at 1:45. Matthew Bruni talking hoops at 2. Pro Football Focus gave the Saints dream offseason in hour 2. We'll get to some of that, and then my SEC baseball power rankings will be coming at you every single Wednesday at 2:30, so we'll get to those an hour and a half from right now. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Let's get it rolling the same way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
The number 5 team in the country came into the PMAC last night, and the game went exactly the way anyone who has paid attention to either team would have seen it go. I think that happens less frequently than we think. I make a living here sitting down, breaking down football games, breaking down basketball games, breaking down baseball weekends, baseball games. And I give you kind of some keys. I give you some thoughts. I give you some things that I think you might see and some keys. It rarely goes right according to script. Last night in the PMAC went exactly according to script. Tennessee is perhaps the best defensive team in the country. They held LSU to 59 points. LSU has been a good defensive team this year, and Tennessee doesn't score great. And Tennessee didn't score great. They had 26 points at halftime. They finished at 65 points, and they got those 65 points by shooting a robust, where's that statistic for you? Field goal percentage, 41% from the floor. So that all went according to plan. And oh, by the way, LSU is small, and they stink at rebounding. And Tennessee absolutely, utterly, and completely dominated LSU on the backboards. They had 44 total rebounds to LSU's 28. But more importantly, Tennessee had 17 offensive rebounds in the game that led to 27 second chance points. Listen to this statistical breakdown. You want to know what's important in a basketball game? How about this? LSU played the 5th-ranked team in the country last night in the PMAC. 5th-ranked team in the country. LSU had a higher field goal percentage in the game. 41.2% to 41.1%. Basically the same. What and what? LSU made more threes than Tennessee, 7-6. LSU had a higher free throw percentage. Now, both teams stunk at it, but it was 63% to 62%. LSU was better. LSU had 10 turnovers. Tennessee had 11. LSU's bench had 8 points. Tennessee's had 6. LSU won all those statistics. Field goal percentage, made threes, free throw percentage, fewer turnovers, outscored them on the bench. Got crushed on the glass, and that was all that mattered. Got outscored by 21 in second chance points, and that was all she wrote in a 6-point game that really wasn't even that close late in the game. I think LSU was very much in the game with like 8 minutes to go. Tennessee controlled the last 8 minutes. They went on a run to push the lead to 14. LSU chipped away with like 28 seconds left. Victorious Miller had some free throws late on a obstruction call that allowed him to get to the line, but LSU was never really a threat to win the game. Tennessee led the game for 34 minutes. LSU led it for a minute and a half. So, look, it was not a shocking game by any stretch. It was actually exactly according to script. And we're not going to sit here and break down this game for 15 minutes, what LSU could have done better, what LSU can look for, what's there to build on for this team, what could be next. We all know. They're not playing for the NCAA tournament. They're not playing for an NIT berth. This season is essentially run its course. They're going to play a couple more regular season games. They're not going to win them. They're going to go to the SEC tournament. They may win a game. They may not. They're not going to make a run. That is decided. This is not a team right now that's good enough in the best league in the country to compete on a nightly basis. Are they playing better over the last 3 weeks? Yes. Have they completely cut down the turnovers that absolutely plagued them for half the SEC play? Yes, they have. But it's unimportant because they don't win. And ultimately, that's why you show up. So as I look at this, there's really only one thing to truly point to that could be of any real interest. And it's the fact that LSU has very, very much turned to its younger players. Now, as I've said a bunch of times, there's no guarantee that LSU is going to have these younger players on the roster next year. They may have all three, they may have two, they may have one, they may have none. There's no way for us to know sitting here right now. I don't talk to Victorious Miller very often. I don't talk to Curtis Givens very often. I don't talk to Robert Miller very often. Every once in a while they come to a post game. Generally speaking, they don't. It's usually one player. I'm just going off of the era that we're in right now in collegiate athletics where guys transfer all over the place. And right now, LSU, to me, it doesn't seem like the hottest place to play basketball in the country. Look at the PMAC last night. You're playing the 5th-ranked team in the country. It's less than half full. That's what LSU basketball is right now. And if these guys, these three, are traveling around to these places in the SEC that are packing their arenas, Oklahoma notwithstanding, you can look around and go, man, PMAC's not exactly rocking right now. I get it, but that's a story for a different day. But the fact is that they are playing these freshmen far more minutes, and they're actually growing up a little bit. Victorious Miller led LSU in scoring last night with 17 points. He made 3 of his 6 threes. He shot 6 of 11 from the floor. He did not turn the ball over in 27 and a half minutes of play. No turnovers. That's solid. Curtis Givens is not a big playmaker at this point in his career, but he's given LSU some pretty solid minutes. He made 2 more threes in the game last night, and he's now in the starting lineup. He played 28 minutes. Jordan Sears played 15. And then you got Robert Miller, who, when I watched Robert Miller play in November and December, I watched a young deer who had no idea what to do with its legs. He was a complete non-factor early in the season. I was kind of looking, going, I know this guy's a lot taller than the high school guys he was playing with, but I'm not sure why the ranking was as high as it was in the recruiting rankings, because he's not really an impactful player right now. Well, he has grown up, and it started in that game at Arkansas, and he continued it last night. Tennessee's got a good front court. Robert Miller only played 19 minutes because he got in foul trouble, so that's half a game, 19 minutes. He finished the game with 9 rebounds, and he made both of his field goal attempts. So if you extrapolate that out for another 15 minutes or so, you're talking about a guy that would have, 8 points and 15 rebounds against one of the best teams in the country. That's something. I just don't know if it's going to be something that gets built on at LSU or not. And I want to be very clear. I'm not suggesting I know that LSU's 3 freshmen are on the way out. Matty Mann's track record is the opposite of that. Jalen Reed stuck around for 3 years. Tyrell Ward got to the first exhibition game before he decided to step away. Mike Williams came back. You've seen Derek Fountain hang around for a long time. He's had a lot of folks stick around. It's not like it's complete mass exodus, rebuild the whole thing every year. So I don't know. But I'm not going to break down much of what LSU needs to do the rest of the way because they've lost too many games for it to matter. I'm not going to look at the NIT bracketology and see what the SEC strength of schedule means for LSU's chances to sneak in the back into the NIT. Nobody gives a rip. But the basketball program is at an inflection point right now where they've decided we're going to spend more money and try to put together a more competitive roster next year. We've already seen that reported. We understand that's the direction LSU is going to go. That's got to start by spending some money to retain some of the guys that you want to keep on next year's team. You don't have that option with Cam Carter. But you have that option with Curtis Givens, with Robert Miller, with Victorious Miller. And those 3 guys, Victorious Miller did score a little bit in the pre-conference. But Givens and Miller didn't really do anything. They're getting better. They're not great, but they're getting better. And you take that trio and you pair it with a signing class that's got 3 signees that are once again top 70, and then you got to go to the transfer portal and get some big fish. The same big fish that Bama's getting, that Tennessee's getting. Same big fish that the teams that are winning are getting. You got to try to do that. You got to do it with money. So, again, not much to talk about over the next 3 weeks, but it is obvious if you're watching the games. And if you're not, I get it. Trust me. It's not a lot of fun to watch your team get their brains beat in most nights. But if you're watching, you can tell that LSU's freshmen are playing better than they were. No guarantee how good they'll be next year. But it is a stride for that group of players, while this team makes very few in terms of winning basketball games. LSU loses 65-59 in the PMAC last night. They'll travel to the Hump in Starkville coming up on Saturday. All right, let's take a timeout. That's our Genesis opening drive. When we come back, we'll chat with Koki Riley. He is in Texas. LSU and Dallas Baptist tonight. Very much looking forward to that matchup between 2 of the 5 teams in the country that have made the last 10 NCAA tournaments, LSU and Dallas Baptist. We'll talk about that with Koki coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, closet space may not be important to some, but it is very important to a lot, my wife being one of them. And she moved into the house that I was living in. It was our first home. It was a great place to bring our firstborn. However, the closet situation, not good. And I didn't really care, but she did. And I started to realize when we had coats in different rooms and different articles of clothing jammed in closets elsewhere that you had to go find, and it just wasn't a great setup. And so when we decided to move, we were like, well, we need to go ahead and prioritize closet space. It's something we haven't had. It's something we know we need. You don't have to move to make that happen. David Duvall and his team can do it for you. You can use your existing closet space a little bit more efficiently and effectively to clear that clutter, or you can just put in a new closet. David Duvall and his team are licensed contractors. They can do all of that for you. If you're worried about paying for that, there are financing options available. 0% for 18 months, same as cash if you qualify. Start that process with that free consultation day. That part doesn't cost you a cent. David comes over, you tell him what you're looking for, he tells you what he can do, you decide to move forward with that process. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Competition level cranking up just a touch here for the LSU baseball squad. They hit the road earlier this week. They'll take on Dallas Baptist in Arlington tonight at 7 o'clock. Then up north to Frisco, where they'll take on Kansas State, Nebraska, and Sam Houston State in the Frisco College Classic up at Ryder Park in Frisco, Texas. Koki Riley will be there for all of it. He joins us now from Texas. Koki, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing pretty well. How's it going?
It's going quite well. Let's talk about LSU's offense over the weekend. They were good on the bookends, but had a little bit of a lull there in the middle of the action, specifically in the first game of that doubleheader on Saturday. What did you see from those struggles from LSU?
A lot of pop-ups.
Yeah.
I think at one point they hit a pop-up or a fly-out on 7 straight at-bats, which I don't even know if I've ever seen that before. And, just being overly aggressive on not just swinging at balls, but just swinging at stuff that you can't really drive. And that's the Jay Johnson MO. It's don't swing at anything you can't drive and really impact the baseball with. And sometimes that's going to depend on who the pitcher is. And that's why Jay Johnson keeps on talking about plan. When he talks about plan, it's not just one plan. It's the plan for whatever pitcher's in the game, and what does that pitcher do that allows you to be the most successful against them? Like what are the pitches, or when he makes a mistake, what does that look like, and how can you drive that pitch? So I think that's kind of what he's talking about when he talks about plan, and they definitely went outside their plan for a good 10 innings there. I mean, only 10, 11 innings really. They had 3 hits, 10 strikeouts, no runs, and against a team like Omaha, that just can't happen. So it was definitely a worrying stretch for them, and they kind of lost their heads there for more than a hot second. But they've played really good baseball since.
How do you feel about the offense as a whole? We all realize how early it is, but just big picture, how do you feel about it?
Still probably a little better than last year. I still think they have some more guys who are just know how to hit. They have pretty good swings, pretty good hit tools, I'd say. You have a little more confidence in that because of the guys that are returning. When you add in a guy like Daniel Dickinson as well, I feel a little bit better on that aspect of it. The power is still a concern to me. I think they've played more games than they have home runs so far. So I still have trouble seeing who that 15 plus home run guy is going to be next to Jared Jones, and they probably need a couple of them, and I don't even know who one of them could be. I guess there's a lot of different candidates. We just haven't seen it so far this year. Again, it's very early, but I'd say that's probably my biggest question mark with the offense. Where are they going to get the power? Because not just because power has been an important part of their offense the last couple of years. That's very true, and that's definitely a part of this. But you need to have power to just take advantage of the smaller parks that you're going to be playing in the SEC. And when the weather gets warm, the teams are going to be rolling out 2 and 3 and grand slams out there. 2, 3 run home runs, grand slams, all that sort of stuff. So once the weather gets warmer, you need to take advantage of that stuff. And so far, they haven't so far.
One of the guys that will is Jared Jones, and Derek Curiel seems very comfortable hitting right in front of him in the 2 slot. I'm curious who you think works best at the leadoff spot in front of those two, because they are the 2 spots in the order that haven't really moved.
Yeah. I think that's going to be kind of connected to the conversation of who protects Jared behind him in the order, right? And I kind of circled down Dickinson as guys what are you going to do with him? Are you going to have him behind Jared and be that really good contact hitter with a little bit of pop behind him in the order, or are you going to have him as the table setter at the top of the order? Because I think he works in either role, and it's just a matter of what they want to do there. Do with him there. And I think Ashton Larson's another good candidate for this, but Ashton Larson still has to, play enough. And that's not to say that he's not good enough. It's just more of, how deep they are in that corner outfield spot and what they kind of want to do there. So, no, again, we'll see. But I think Larson's a really good candidate for it because he's just so good at getting on base and putting the ball in play. And it's really hard to just, strike him out. And they need a potential run producer, and they need guys who can get on base. And I think Dickinson and Larson are two good candidates for it. Whether who leads off and who bats fourth, who knows? But I think those two guys are kind of good candidates for those spots.
Let's talk some pitching. Anthony Ianson's line score was really good on Saturday in LSU's loss, but he was unscored upon in his 6 innings of work. What did you make of his second start?
Yeah, even better than his first start, and I think that's fairly promising given that I think Omaha was better than Purdue Fort Wayne. So yeah, he's a rock. It's hard to just sort of go into crazy detail of how much better he was in the second start than he was in his first, because I think he's kind of the same guy every single time out because he throws a litany of strikes. He throws so many strikes, and it's a fastball that's low to mid 90s, and he's got a couple of breaking balls. The curveball's pretty interesting, and I like the slider quite a bit. And he also has the occasional changeup. So it's 4 pitches. Pretty much all of them are for strikes. It's not the most explosive stuff, and I wouldn't say he has the most jump out at you sort of stuff among the starters at the very least. But at the same time, he's just kind of a rock, and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a pretty reliable 5 to 6 innings for them every weekend. And
your thoughts on Shores in the Game 3 spot?
He was fantastic. And he's, and again, when you have his sort of stuff, you just got to throw it down the middle and let it get to the corner, with that sinker especially, right? And it's fastball, sinker, slider, everything moves, and he's shown much better command than he did in the preseason through these first 2 starts. When the competition gets tougher, let's see what it looks like. But 97 with sink is 97 with sink, so he's going to be tough to hit. And I think the sliders look really good so far this year. And in the second start, I thought he was at least as sharp as he was in his first start. And again, it was a slight step up in competition. So this weekend's going to be really big to sort of figure out who's going to be that Saturday guy and who's going to be that Sunday guy, because both those guys pitched on Saturday. And despite getting the one extra less day of rest for Shores, he was more than fine. So I think Jay told John Eads yesterday that they're going to try to figure out who's going to be who's going to pitch Saturday, who's going to pitch Sunday this week, because now that's kind of a little more up in the air because of, again, Shores having to pitch last Saturday.
Yeah, that's a musical chairs game that we haven't seen a ton of up until the last few years with the Thursday night SEC games, and now a lot of times your rotation gets jumbled a little bit based on days off. So we'll see what happens for LSU on Sunday and what should be a great weather weekend up there in Frisco. Other starter I wanted your thoughts on was the freshman, obviously William Schmidt, and what he did in the game on Monday. The line score was great. It was his first start. It looked good to me. Your thoughts from the press box?
Yeah, it was definitely a positive start for him. The one thing I kind of kept my eye on during the preseason and something that I saw a little bit in this start is that teams can jump on his fastball a little bit. If he's not careful and if he just leaves that thing over the plate, teams can hit it. And I think it's not the Chase Shores fastball. It's not. There isn't a ton of movement to it. It's a fairly flat pitch. So he has to be able to locate it really well, and especially up in the zone, so he can use that pitch to set up his curveball to put hitters away, right? And once he was able to even mix in some of his off-speed stuff earlier in counts, that's when you saw more success from him, I thought, in this game. And Nichols doesn't have the greatest offense. And credit to them for jumping on the fastball. Like, they don't see, those guys probably don't see 95, 96 every day.
Right.
So, I think that's going to be kind of a key for him to like really, use that curveball, use that slider. It should keep on improving the shape of the fastball as his career, progresses here, because he has all the talent in the world. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that, for the last few years, probably he's been able to get away with just blowing fastballs by hitters and just sort of building up and sort of like lean on that pitch more. But now he may have to pitch a little bit more backwards, just so teams can, stay off of his fastball, and he can really utilize it. I think his greatest strength, which for me is his curveball. I think he has one of the best curveballs in the team, if not the country. And it's just an absolutely tremendous pitch. And if he can really mix that in and really get hitters off balance, that's going to be the key to his success as he faces tougher and tougher competition.
He's Koki Riley. You can follow him on Twitter at Koki Riley, Koki. He's there in Texas, following LSU and Dallas Baptist tonight. Do you expect to see Connor Ware on the bump tonight for LSU?
Yep, he's already announced as a starter,
okay.
And it's going to be a very, very important start for him tonight. So, big step up in competition. Obviously, 3 shutout innings against Southern, but the way he can locate the ball inside, outside, to lefties, to righties, that will hopefully serve him really well in a game like this against Dallas Baptist.
I'm curious your thoughts, because you mentioned this earlier in the interview, and I wanted to eventually get to the offense this weekend. Weather's going to be good. I don't know about the wind. I don't know about the hitter's park or not in Frisco, but certainly the hitting conditions will be better than they've been the last 2 weeks in Baton Rouge. Do you expect some more pop from LSU this weekend?
Yes and no. It's going to be kind of depend on who they face on the mound, like even more than the conditions, right? I think the conditions can help them turn some of those fly balls into home runs, and that's something that they're going to use the last couple of weekends, obviously. But for this weekend in particular, like Nebraska, their strength is probably on the mound. They've really struggled offensively. That's where their struggles have been. And then for Kansas State, they don't really even have starters. It's more, they don't have anyone who's thrown more than 90 innings this season. So they're going to see like a whole bunch of different arms probably in that game, in that one game. So it's a lot of it's just going to come down to just how they perform against easily the best pitching they've faced so far this year. I guess they'll have the DBU game under their belt at that point, but you know what I mean. So that Sam Houston game is going to be interesting too, because that's a team that's really struggled. So can they really get their power going in that game? So I think the weather is definitely going to play a factor. But at the end of the day, like, it's how they're going to adjust to this much like higher level of pitching, especially in this DBU game, is like that's really going to determine the power, honestly.
Enjoy the Lone Star State, Koki. I hope to see you up there on Friday. Still to be determined on my end, but I'm planning on it, so hopefully I'll see you up there, and safe travels coming back home.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me on again.
You bet. Koki Riley from The Advocate. Follow him on Twitter at Koki Riley, Koki. Does a great job covering the LSU baseball team. LSU and Dallas Baptist tonight from Globe Life, 7 o'clock first pitch. You can hear that on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. And it'll be we'll broadcast all the games on the LSU Sports Radio Network here locally in Baton Rouge under the Guarantee roof. So LSU and DBU tonight at 7. We'll come back, play some What If Wednesday on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Your buying experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge is going to be luxury in every way. You're going to feel like a guest at the dealership, not necessarily a customer, and their brand ambassadors are going to help you each and every step of that way. That could be in the store. It could be remotely. They're happy to come to you for that test drive. If you look at the website, genesisofbatonrouge.com, and you see whether it's a sedan or an SUV that you'd like to get behind the wheel of, just reach out. They'll come to you. They'll come to your work. They'll come to the house. You can get right behind the wheel. One of their brand ambassadors will point out all the beautiful bells and whistles as well as the incredible safety features of those Genesis vehicles. And if you decide that's what you want, they can do delivery. They can do e-contracts. You never have to set foot on the lot at the dealership if you don't want to. If you would like to, head on by right there across from Women's Hospital, Airline at Piku, and check out that brand new store. Only about 2 years old there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can start that process online, genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
And backed by the one star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
We still got a ton to do here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. LSU ranked number 1 among SEC teams in the 2026 recruiting rankings. We'll talk a little bit about that. Matthew Bruni in 25 minutes. Pro Football Focus, talk about a Saints dream offseason. It revolves around 2 different defensive linemen. We'll dive into that in my SEC Baseball Power Rankings coming your way as well. So lots and lots to do. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It is Wednesday. It's the bottom of hour number 1. So let's do What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if LSU makes the NIT? I'm assuming they're talking about the men's team. I think the women's team are going to make the actual tournament.
I would be surprised if the women's team didn't make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
There would have to be some pretty significant infractions committed in short order for them not to make the NCAA tournament. If the men's team makes the NIT, you can just kind of count me out. I have in the past thought that there was some value in a team reaching the NIT, getting some tournament experience, playing a little bit more, practicing a little bit more. Will Wade's first team, even Matt McMahon's team last year to an extent. At this point, no, because you're overhauling the team every year. Nobody really goes to NIT games. I can't name who won the NIT last year or the year before that or the year before that or ever. I know Mike White's teams at Louisiana Tech generally made some NIT runs.
I'll never forget whenever Kentucky was like the 1 seed and they lost to Robert Morris.
Robert Morris,
I'll never
Bobby
forget that
Moe
one. Yeah.
in Pittsburgh. They had to go on the road to Robert Morris. That may be the only redeeming quality. Well, there's 2 redeeming qualities of the NIT. One, sometimes massive brands have to go play in small gyms. And 2, you get to go play in Madison Square Garden, which, even though no one cares you win or lose, is still Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
So, that's about it. I can't even try to remotely drum up any interest in the NIT, and I don't want to. And look, Matt McMahon, this is not like off-the-record stuff. Press conferences, radio appearances, speaking engagements, my pregame show, like, we didn't come here to play in the NIT. There you go. I don't even know. There was an NITology at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do that. And I do know that the NIT has some different criteria now for how to get in, and you got
you have to have a winning record
regular season
at least,
conference,
so
and LSU's 500, and that's not going to happen. So, I'm not too concerned with that.
Yeah, I'm not really either. This is, like you said, when it's the first or second year a coach is with the team, and that's a good marker for showing that the team is improving. But at this point, this is the 3rd year for Matt McMahon, so going to the NIT for me is not really going to do
Trivia
much.
question: who'd they lose to in the NIT last year?
The North Texas.
Correct. Well done.
Mean Green.
The Mean Green. My only memory from that game, it's vivid. We're in the house, hadn't been in it that long. Basketball's on. Myers had just kind of gotten to the point where he could understand like what basketball's going. He had a hoop in the living room, and North Texas started bombing in threes from everywhere in the first half, and he kept cheering every time they'd make one. We got to work on who shot the ball, not just that it went in the basket. But he was pumped up because the Mean Green were raining him in from all over the place.
Didn't a Johnny Jones team lose to North Texas at home? For some reason, I remember an LSU North Texas game.
No, Johnny Jones beat LSU when he was the head coach at North Texas.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes.
Okay. All right, next one here. What if you had to pick a non-weekend starter to become a weekend starter for this LSU team?
So I get the whole roster, and I take out Anderson, Ianson, and Shores.
Yes.
I would probably go with Connor Ware, although William Schmidt is right there on the verge of that. But I would probably go with Ware if he dominates. I still think Jay Johnson would like to use him in the bullpen, but in all the preseason talk I did about this team, and we always talked about Connor Ware being the back-end guy of the bullpen, I did not foresee the freshman dominating to this extent. I did not. I talked about Kason Evans a lot. I wrote about Kason Evans. I talked about him. I said he's going to be good. I didn't quite know that this was the level he would be at. And then Rizzy is way more impactful than I would have imagined to this point. I knew he threw pretty hard. I knew he had a pretty good slider. I did not know if he could command it, and I didn't know what the coaching staff's trust was in him. And Jay Johnson said on Monday that he thinks Rizzy's going to lead the team in appearances. So when we were talking about Connor Ware all of the offseason and in the preseason, I don't think we had I did not, I shouldn't speak for everyone, I did not have a great handle on what the confidence level and the performance level of the freshman arms would be. I wrote on LouisianaSports.net yesterday, I think they might be the best bullpen guys on the team now. So it's a different landscape than it was 3 weeks ago. That leads me to believe that Connor Ware may have a way into the rotation one way or another, more so than when I thought he was anchored in the back end of the bullpen.
All right, next one here. What if Alyssa, your wife, goes into labor while you're in Frisco?
It's a discussion, okay? There's a discussion being had. There's an OB appointment. The OB is awesome. Did not necessarily give us a ton of quality, usable information because she didn't want to feel responsible. She basically said, I don't know what's going to happen, but here's kind of what could happen. So we'll see. To answer the question, if I am in Frisco and she goes into labor, I'm going to get on an app immediately and see if there's a flight like now that I can get on. And if I can't, my dad's going to be there in his car, and I'll just drive his car 6 hours from Frisco to Baton Rouge. Myers, from the time we left the house to the time he was actually born, was about 9 hours. It's only 6 and change from Frisco. Maybe we can make that happen. We'll hope it doesn't, though. That would be
unfortunate. There you go.
Well said.
All right, how about this one? What if you shoot 95 at PGA Frisco?
That would be a bad round. That'd be poor playing. That'd be poor performance.
I've heard it's a tough course.
It's not out of the question. They say the greens are ridiculously undulating. I've looked at a 4K flyover of the course with the yardages. I feel like I can handle it, but that remains to be seen once I get on there and start.
Your dad's playing, though, right?
He is.
And he's going to play for the back tees.
He's
probably.
not.
Oh,
he
he's
said
not?
As of yesterday, he's going to play from 5,700 yards, which is an incredible development.
I can't believe it. I really can't.
He's talked about the up tees like they are just completely off limits for years, and apparently this is the one course that's going to bring him up a couple tee boxes, which is great. I want to play the course very, very badly. We'll see over the next 24 hours whether or not I have the opportunity to do so. It's very much up in the air at this point.
All right, last one here. What if Jay Johnson actually scheduled more tougher non-conference series?
So that's a fair question looking at this schedule. You're looking at Purdue, Fort Wayne, Omaha, and then I don't even know who they have in 2 weeks. I know that it's not anything to write home about. That tells you all you need to know about the series. I don't even know who it is. You can look it up. I do know that the first weekend that this Purdue Fort Wayne series from
North Dakota State. They play 2 North Dakota State.
Okay.
2 games, yeah. And then North Alabama, a 3-game set.
I don't know about that one. I can tell you for sure that the first series of the year, they had a different team scheduled that underwent a coaching change. The head coach did not want to play his first weekend at the head coach of this program at Alec Box Stadium. I don't know who it is, and Jay wouldn't divulge that information. But they got that weekend pulled out from under them. And they were almost at the point for opening weekend where they were going to have to call someone and jump in a round robin away from the box just to get 3 games in. So they're going to have to go to someone who was playing a 2-game series, say, hey, can we jump in and play Friday, Saturday, Sunday as part of a doubleheader all 3 days, whatever. Like they were close to having to do that because of the scheduling rearrangement. They're going to play a tournament every year. They're going to Round Rock again next year. That probably means they're headed back to Houston the year after that. They're going to go to Texas and play a weekend every year. And I'd like one really solid weekend if you could. I'm okay if the other 2 are pretty average. You're going to get so much competition in SEC play that your RPI points and all that kind of stuff is going to take care of itself over the course of league play. I realize this is not a very popular opinion, but I'm perfectly okay with a complete breather series where you can play a lot of guys, get some guys rest, get some guys confidence. That's okay with me because the league is so good. If that wasn't the case, then you would have to think twice about it.
This is just from the chat. I see Bilbo T. Baggins. I just looked it up real quick. He says it's Stephen F. Austin. They do have a new coach this year for this season.
Okay.
So that obviously it's not confirmed or anything, but that Stephen F. Austin definitely a step up from Purdue Fort Wayne, I would say.
It's a Texas team that has guys that play year round and they've been practicing.
Right.
I mean, the guys, the schools you bring in here haven't been able to practice half the time. So, I'm not as concerned with it. I understand that people get tired of the run rules and the blowouts in February and early March. That is a completely reasonable take on the matter. But those 30 games are so ruthless that it really does everything you need for your team. I like the weekends in Texas. I like the fact that it feels kind of regional-like, where you prepare for a different team every day, and you sometimes get to play in a big league stadium or a minor league park in this case. I think if they mix that in with one good one, I'm good, and then you get to SEC play, and you just figure out how to win 18 or 20 of those things and set yourself up for the postseason.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, Kim Mulkey seems to have the same mindset in terms of her scheduling. But and then to me, and from my perspective, I look at, especially with the women's team, the SEC is it's not as good of a conference as compared to the baseball conference, but it's still one of the best in women's basketball. And you're going to get tested at least 4 or 5 times probably when you play conference play. But to me, I think the value of playing 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5, solid opponents from a Power 5 league, I think it's worth it. I don't think the downsides are that bad because it's still non-conference, so it's not going to hurt you that much, but it will raise your strength of schedule, all those statistics. So to me, I think that it helps. In baseball, it's probably a little different just because of the SEC is just so powerful. And even if you reach a certain amount of conference games, you're going to be a regional host. So
they're the only 30 that really matter. It just is what it is. You set yourself up by what you do in those. Now, if you're LSU last year and you go 13-17 in the league and you've lost 6 midweek games, well, when we can have a conversation. But the 13-17 in the league is what got you to that point. So it is what it is. That's What If Wednesday here on this Wednesday. On 3, thinks pretty highly of LSU's recruiting class to this point. We'll tell you why coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, phenomenal to work with. If you're a business owner and you feel like you just pay a ton in insurance, you're not alone. Have you explored a captive? Do you know what a captive does? Many of you may. Many of you may not. It may not be something that's on your radar. For the longest time, when you've dealt with insurance, you know that renewal's coming around. You get your broker to get you a few quotes. You may get a competing bid that gets sent in. You look at the premium. You hope the coverages are good. You sign off on it, and we'll see you next year. That's the way a lot of business owners handle insurance. But a captive could be the most cost-effective way to handle your risk management. And you got to qualify, and you've got to be sure that you've got an appetite for some risk. But if you can, and you do, then you may have a real solution to some insurance pain that's been caused with this market over the last decade. Call Jonathan Carver and his team. Say, hey, I'd like to talk about this captive. And he'll see if you're a fit. They do it all the time. It's HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge for your property and casualty insurance, as well as your group and employee benefits. It's a one-stop shop for all things insurance. It's the Highland Insurance Group.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
You gotta believe. Dream, believe, you gotta believe, dream, believe, you gotta believe, whole team on wild.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111, your law firm for a lifetime. At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Closing up hour number 1 here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I got Matthew Bruni coming up in 10 minutes. Every once in a while I do a segment on this show, and I feel like I do shed some light on some numbers, not necessarily to shock you. Like, it's something that you understand, but every once in a while just an illustration of a point helps to reinforce it. This is one of those situations. On3 just had a big shuffle of their player rankings, which in turn shuffled the school rankings for the 2026 recruiting class. Those are the folks who are in their last semester as juniors in high school right now that will be seniors come the fall. So it's the next class that will sign on the dotted line. And LSU is the number 3 class in the country on3, the best class in the Southeastern Conference to this point. It's very early, I know, but that point still stands. Behind USC, behind Oregon, who are, of course, Big Ten schools at this point. But I bring this up because I want to list off the current commitments that LSU has in this class that is ranked 3rd in the nation. Richard Anderson goes to Carr in New Orleans. Aiden Hall goes to Carr in New Orleans. Those guys are top 75 national players. Bryson Martinez goes to East Ascension in Gonzales. Kenny Darby goes to Airline in Bossier. Ja'Kai Anderson goes to McDonough 35 in New Orleans. And Jalen Chapman goes to Warren Easton in New Orleans. What do all those players have in common? Pretty simple. They're from Louisiana. LSU, with 6 commitments, it's really early. I get it. I'm not declaring LSU the recruiting national champs, the conference champions of recruiting for a class that doesn't sign for another 10 months. But what I'm telling you is you can just go get, and these aren't even the top players in the state of Louisiana. You understand that. Lamar Brown and Blaine Bradford aren't in this list. You can just go get 6 of the top 8 players in the state, and at this point in the calendar, you're the best class in the whole conference. That's oftentimes what this state can produce. And I'm not breaking news to any of you that are listening right now saying, oh man, Louisiana's got some pretty good football recruits. Like you already knew that. But every once in a while it helps to drive that point home that, man, the lifeblood of this thing just pumps and pumps and pumps and pumps. And I would suggest if you tomorrow landed those 2 5-star recruits from right here in Baton Rouge, both of whom everyone thinks LSU has a really good chance to land, you would have the top class in the country right now with no players outside the state of Louisiana. The farthest you've got to drive from Nicholson to one of these campuses is Kenny Darby and Airline, and that's less than 4 hours. It's just a really, really massive advantage for LSU, and every once in a while it helps to kind of paint that picture. So you got to keep going, and you understand that you do have to supplement the class with folks from national scale, and LSU's brand and their ability to play in the NIL space will allow them to do that often, not every time. What do we talk about when Bryce Underwood decommitted? I don't know if LSU's going to be able to play in the waters of the 5-star quarterback from all the way across the country. That might be a bridge too far in this era. But you can still play in this sandbox in Louisiana, and you can cherry pick. You can go get DJ Pickett. You can make that work. You can go get national recruits. But if you can continue to fill the pipeline with the Louisiana kids, you're going to field a really talented roster far more often than you don't. And I think that LSU probably branched away from that a little bit in 2021, 2022. And I think they're starting to hone it back in based on the staff you've put together with Frank Wilson, with Corey Raymond, with Brad Davis, with Bo Davis. Joe Sloan's been in this state a long time. You've got a lot of guys. Blake Baker has spent a lot of time here. His wife's from here. You've assembled a staff that knows how important this place is, and knowing it is one thing, capitalize on it is another. You're doing that right now with the way that this class is shaping up. And it's remarkable to me to sometimes look at things and go, man, you've got the best looking early class in the country, as well, in the conference, I should say. Best looking early class in the conference, and you haven't dipped your toe out of the water of Louisiana once. Pretty powerful stuff. Long way. Staff is doing a good job of that, securing commitments. Just got to get to December before you get that ink to dry on. Always appreciate y'all checking that out. Subscribe as we possibly can. Looking for in hour number 2. We'll also talk a little bit LSU DBU. All that after Sports Center.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There. And extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in space. A little extra help. Call. Schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedic. Professional athlete or a weekend. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
And looking forward to 50 more.
A legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Rams coach Sean McVay told the Fitz and Wit podcast their first goal is to have Matthew Stafford remain their starting quarterback, but the franchise is trying to balance short and long-term roster decisions by letting his agent speak to other franchises about his market value. Stafford is set to earn $27 million this year. ESPN NFL analyst Damian Woody.
If it's about money, pay the man. I mean, the man is more than worth it. And if you're Matthew Stafford, obviously to me, this is the ideal situation. You're playing indoors, you're playing in a division you can clearly win, and the team is pretty good around you. So I can't make sense of this from either side, to be honest with you.
Oklahoma has hired Senior Bowl Executive Director Jim Nagy to be its football GM. NHL Senators captain Brady Tkachuk won't play tonight against the Jets, who've won 10 straight. He's missing a second straight game with a lower body injury sustained in the Four Nations face-off. Baseball, Astros star Jose Altuve will make his spring training debut Friday in left field. Houston's got an opening in left after trading Kyle Tucker to the Cubs this offseason. Altuve says he'll play wherever he's needed.
Hey, it's Evan Cohen. Coming up Thursday, Jim Harbaugh has said the Chargers need to level up around Justin Herbert. So which other teams need to level up around their QB? It's on Sportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week officially in the rear view mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Should the Saints trade for Justin Fields? We'll talk about that in 15 minutes. My SEC baseball power rankings coming at you later in this hour as well. It's time of the week. We always talk to Matthew Bruni, part of the Bengal Tiger over there on 3. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Matthew, how are you?
Hey, Hunt. Doing great. Weather's good. I'm doing well.
Weather is good. LSU women's basketball. I hadn't talked a ton about that. We've seen a pretty large sample size now as they continue to progress towards March, which is really all that matters in Kim Mulkey's world at this point. How do you feel about their chances to reach the Final Four and compete with the championship based on the upper echelon of the sport right now?
Yeah, I think they have a really good shot. Honestly, the top of the sport is very not as flat as, like, let's say a college football, as we just went through the year where it didn't seem like there was a dominant team. I think there's a clear top tier in women's basketball, and I do think LSU is in that tier. I think LSU is with Texas and South Carolina, as they proved by playing with them on the road. I think they're in the conversation with a Juju Watkins at USC and Notre Dame and UCLA. I think that whole group is capable of winning the title, and LSU isn't going to be the favorite by any means, but I think they're in that 5 to 7 range in terms of contenders, and I think that puts them in position to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament most likely, and that's better than what they've been the last 3 years, and I think that sets up nicely for them to at least make another Elite 8 run.
Yeah, that's kind of my question. Like, does it matter if they're a 2 or a 3? Do they need to try to get to a 1? Can they get to a 1? Is anything that they do over the next 2.5 weeks of a lot of consequence, or really it's just going to be how do they play when they get to that second weekend?
Yeah, I wrote about this morning, actually, over on the Bengal Tiger on 3, and the most likely outcome, really, regardless. But if they go and win the SEC tournament, and maybe that puts them in a 1 spot, I think that would be kind of the most likely outcome for them to get a 1 is they win the SEC tournament. Could they fall to a 3? Yes, it would be basically a collapse. Like, they play a ranked Alabama team and a good Ole Miss team. If they lost those, then yes, they would drop to a 3. Higher than, and I think that is significant because even if you go back to their barely beat Utah in the Sweet 16, and then last year they barely beat UCLA, and those were both 2 seeds. And so, yeah, I think there is something to be said about getting a 2 seed, not having to play, a top 7, 8 team in the country in the Sweet 16 round, and playing your cards from there.
Talking to Matthew Bruni from the Bengal Tiger, and a little basketball talk here on this Wednesday night. January?
I think so. I think especially early January, and then if played well for most of to Georgia, the loss at home, loss you could say at just really, really good teams that go down the list. Ole Miss, yeah, go down the list. Or they just do not have enough offensive firepower to get over the hump in these games, and it's disappointing to watch. But I just watch every single game. I'm waiting for another letdown. I'm waiting for another Texas game where they just don't come out for a half, but it just really doesn't happen, and I'm impressed by that at the very least.
Shea Dixon, your colleague over at the Bengal Tiger, wrote that LSU plans to hang on to Matt McMahon and to increase the war chest, so to say, with NIL to try to go out and get some more players. What are your thoughts on the story that he wrote there and what that could mean for LSU basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of saw it coming. I didn't think they were going to get rid of McMahon this year, even if they went 1-16 or 1-17 in conference. I thought they were going to give him another year just off of how last year went and the situation that he was in and everything. I think everybody, including Scott Woodward, was on the same page about all that. And it's really nothing, shocking to me. Not just a position that, is going to lend itself to be at the bottom of the SEC. I mean, you look at how we talked about Christine X about the situation LSU is in. So I think McMahon is the right man. Still, the investment of this basketball program will go far beyond Matt McMahon. If he can't get it done next year, then he'll be out. If he does get it done, then you're back, as a top 30 program in the country. To make this investment and this push to be serious about. Ultimately, the results are what
crowd last night. But it's the number 5 team in the country coming in, and that place is half empty. And I just a couple $1 million at it. Do you think that it is?
I think there is something to say if they were, if they had 8 wins or if they were 7-7 or something like that. I do think hosting one of the top teams, because I mean, if they're 7-7 and we're talking about a fringe top 25 teams in the country in this conference, I think people have, rightfully so, became apathetic to it, especially with baseball starting up, which is great, and spring football on the way in. I think they've done a good job in terms of getting students out there, for most of these games, especially with all their promos and stuff. That's the hope, is that you can buy base. I think that's the goal.
And it wins, people show up. Gymnastics is very much proof of that. Women's basketball, very much proof of that. Baseball, back in the 90s, very much proof of that. So we'll see if LSU men's basketball can get where it was in the 80s and for a time there in the late 20-teens. Last question. The three freshmen are playing significantly more minutes than they did in early January. How do you assess their play? Well, assuming those guys.
The first thing is you got to get them back. I think at the very least you got to get two of them back. Obviously you would love to get all three, and they will push to get all three back. I'm just kind of, in my head, always skeptical of anybody. All these players from around the country and whatnot. But ideally, if you get two of those three back, I don't care honestly who the two of the three are. I would love Robert Miller or Victorious or Curtis. I think all of them have a very, very high trajectory in terms of their career paths and just what they're going to be. I think they all have translatable skills as they continue to improve. Curtis Givens, even though he's not shooting the ball great this year, I think there's potential with three-point shooting to take a step forward. He has the size. He's 6'3 plus and a good athlete. Victorious, evidence of last night, is an incredible scorer, incredible field, does that against the number one defense in the country. Just a smooth player. And then Rob Miller has, the past month, been the best big on this team, which is kind of crazy to say, but that's just kind of the situation they're in. And even though it is kind of up and down for him in terms of usage and production, and at the very least, you see the tools, you see the length, you see the game is slowing down for him. And with that being the case, I have a really, really, high expectations for him moving forward. So yeah, of those three, if you can keep two of them, I think it's a huge success. If you can keep all three of them, it would be a massive, massive win for McMahon.
You want your LSU team coverage, you want your recruiting coverage, you can find it all at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 team. Matthew Bruni with us every single Wednesday. We appreciate the time, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Hunt.
He is Matthew Bruni. All right, there's a lot going on with the New Orleans Saints in the news right now as the combine's heating up. There are conversations left and right, reports coming out. Mickey Loomis spoke with the media, and quarterback is kind of the biggest topic for the Saints at this point now that the coaching staff is filled out. Is Derek Carr coming back? Could they get Justin Fields? What's the possibility there? We'll talk about all of it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, so let's talk some black and gold. There's a lot of Saints buzz today based on a couple of different reports, and it all revolves around the quarterback spot. So let's get into it, and let's be clear as well. This is now the most interesting piece to the Saints puzzle. We know that the executive team has been kept in place. We know they've got a new head coach. He's filled out his staff. Now it comes to the roster, and the roster starts at quarterback. So this is the next frontier for the Saints in their rebuild, reboot, new era, whatever you want to call it. This is next. And let's start with Nick Underhill from New Orleans Football, who is reporting from the Combine and has essentially said, like, the Saints are not going to move on from Derek Carr. As he tweets out, sounds like the Saints plan to keep Derek Carr at quarterback. Mickey Loomis said they feel like they've got a QB they can win with, and Kellen Moore said the team feels fortunate to have Carr. Moore and Carr have met. Sounds like it went well. Still have some contract stuff to figure out. That obviously is revolving around the money that Derek Carr is owed, his cap hit, the dead money, the year, like all of that has to be worked around. First things first. I talk about this all the time. I don't really care what you say in a press conference, because clearly Mickey Loomis is not going to go to the podium or speak to someone on the record when he knows it's going to get published and say, yeah, Carr, we signed him, Dennis wanted him, and he's never been that good. He hadn't been that good for us. I don't think we can win with him, so we're trying to get rid of him, and I think we can get Justin Fields, so we'll see if it works out. He's not going to say that. So saying that you're fortunate to have Carr and that he and the coach have met and things went well and all that's well and good, it's really the only thing you can say. So I'm not questioning Nick's reporting at all. He's brilliant at his job. I'm just saying if things are, in fact, looking a different direction, you're never going to get that on the record at this point in the calendar. So take that with one grain of salt. The Saints may move forward with Derek Carr, and they may try to figure out the cap gymnastics to do that, and they may think that that's the best way to try to win games this year. But ESPN wrote a story today. Seth Walder predicted Justin Fields to be the Saints quarterback in 2025. Now, keep in mind, this is directly contradictory to Nick Underhill, but that's the beauty of the talk radio program. We can discuss both. Walden writes, Carr is owed a fully guaranteed $10 million roster bonus and a non-guaranteed $30 million salary. The former, that $10 million, is a sunk cost for the Saints. The latter can and absolutely should be saved. Holding Carr's $30 million salary on the cap until June 1, which is what the Saints will have to do even if they designated him as a post-June 1 release, will be a challenge. I've seen some potential paths proposed. They might be able to get there via salary restructures thanks to a higher than expected 2025 salary cap, or they could ask Derek Carr to reduce his 2025 salary, knowing he will be cut anyway. That might cost something, though. Assuming he can avoid paying that $30 million to Carr, New Orleans ought to embrace a full rebuild, which means paying players with future upside. Fields and a rookie could make sense in that context. There's still a possibility Fields can kick his level of play up a notch, and if not, a mid-round rookie can get some run. My only hesitation is that even if Fields might be too expensive for the Saints given how rough their salary cap, even Fields might be too expensive for the Saints given how rough their salary cap situation is. So that's a lot to unpack there. But essentially, Nick is reporting Saints feel like there's not a rebuild coming. They still want to be competitive. He did tweet out that Mickey Loomis said they want to be more aggressive in free agency than they were this past year, and that Derek Carr is their guy. And then you've got Waldron, who comes on and says they got to cut Carr. They're going to eat the $10 million. Hopefully they can spread the $30 million out, figure out a way to move on from that, take on Justin Fields at a slightly higher than normal backup salary, plug him as a starter, draft a quarterback, and move forward. I think there are flaws in all of that if you're talking about an ideal world. We probably shouldn't be talking an ideal world. We probably should be talking about a more realistic world, but let's go ahead and talk about an ideal world. An ideal world, you get a young, cheap quarterback. Derek Carr is neither of those. He's not a super expensive quarterback because he's not a super elite quarterback, but he's not cheap. Justin Fields has a chance to be cheap. And if you can get Justin Fields on some sort of one-year deal and something clicks with Kellen Moore and Justin Fields, you might have something really good. The odds are Justin Fields would come to New Orleans in a subpar situation like he had in Chicago, and then the weird deal in Pittsburgh where he's splitting time with Russell Wilson, and he won't be that good, and then you just move on. But I'm okay grabbing a lottery ticket at quarterback every once in a while. You want to draft Spencer Rattler right after Jake Haener? I'm fine with it. You want to take Justin Fields on a fairly cheap, real cheap compared to NFL starting quarterback deals while you're moving on from Derek Carr? I'm okay with it because there's a chance it could hit. You know what's not going to hit? Derek Carr's not going to hit. Derek Carr is not going to massively elevate his level of play. Now, I talked about him yesterday and I said he's not terrible. He's not terrible, but he's not good enough for the Saints' current roster to elevate. He's just not. And I don't think, despite what Mickey Loomis has to say, that the Saints have enough salary cap flexibility to supplement the roster to an extent that they reach another level with Derek Carr. Now, what Justin Fields could offer, if you could get him to New Orleans, is a young quarterback that even though you might have to pay him significantly if he does hit, he's got some years to play for you, and you can spread the deal out. You can't spread anything out with Derek Carr. He's old. So this is attractive in a number of ways if you can make it work. The question is, can they make it work? But that question can only be answered if you decide that you're moving on from Derek Carr, and that decision appears like is not going to be made based on Nick's reporting. It's like 5 different dominoes that have to happen. And the first one that has to fall is the Saints deciding to move on from Derek Carr. If Derek Carr is not being moved on from, you don't talk about Justin Fields. You don't talk about the draft. None of those dominoes fall. You have your quarterback, and it sounds like the Saints want to just push off the dock from there. I think that is a big mistake. But you already know that. I was clinging, and still am to a degree, clinging to some hope that the New Orleans Saints have realized the error in their ways. That they realize that their situation right now stinks. Comparatively speaking, with the rest of the league, the age of your roster, the talent of your roster, the amount of games that you win, and your salary cap situation, all jumbled together, stinks. And if you can't realize that, there's no chance you can move forward. None. Zero. And I'm clinging to hope that they do realize that. And that's why they didn't spend a lot of money in this past offseason. And I hope they won't spend a ton of money this offseason. And I hope they move on from Derek Carr, even if it means eating into your cap for a player that's not going to be productive to you, because you know that the cap situation this year doesn't ultimately matter because you're not going to win and you need to shed more cash and you need to get out from under this avalanche of garbage debt. I'm hopeful they're realizing it. What they say at the microphone suggests they don't, but that's just words. I need to see actions. We'll see what they do in free agency. If they start adding 29-year-old players on 3-year deals, you'll know they haven't learned. If they take a couple of lower-level guys here and there on 1-year deals, even if they keep Derek Carr, I'll still cling to some hope. But ultimately, if they can make the decision to move on from the quarterback and try someone young, who, even if they flop, is only on a short-term deal for a not significant amount of money and may just put you toward the top of next year's draft. This is an organization that has never once shown an appetite to do that. Not once. Still haven't. But I'm hopeful they may try. And it sounds like the folks at ESPN think there's a reasonable shot at that. Now, whether or not that's Justin Fields' agent trying to drum some things up, whether that's an editor that's just looking for clicks on the internet, I don't know. This is a time of year where you kind of just don't take much of anything as gospel. People are up there in Indianapolis. They're eating the shrimp cocktails at St. Elmo's. They're chatting. They're having bourbon on the rocks, and there's stuff flying around in the bar or the hotel lobby, and what's true, what's not. What do people really mean? What's leverage? What's smoke screen? You don't know. We'll know once this draft boils over and the free agency starts to slow down. But I'm clinging to hope that the Saints try to make a move that's not for the 2025 Saints. Every single time the Saints make a move, it feels like it's for that upcoming team. What was once a good idea now stinks. Don't do it. Don't restructure Carr to free up cap space for this year to go sign 30-year-old players who are past their prime and cost more than cost-effective, I use air quotes, players that you could get in the draft, that you could get as undrafted free agents. My hope is fleeting, but I still cling to just a little bit of it, that there might be a new leg turned over. And look, I'm looking at ESPN that thinks there's a possibility of it. Put me in the camp squarely that says Justin Fields is absolutely worth a chance, because if it doesn't work out, you don't lose anything. That's where I stand on this entire Saints situation. I want to know where you stand. You can check out our Saints content on YouTube, Hunt on Saints. Always appreciate comments on those YouTube streams as well. Crossed over the 3,000 subscriber mark earlier this week, so really appreciate you all for locking us in. Hunt on Saints on YouTube. You can also find that wherever you find your podcasts. We appreciate your participation each and every day. Step aside when we come back. SEC Baseball Power Rankings on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every single car, every single model on the line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. You can rest assured when you get behind the wheel of a Genesis that you're going to be in one of the safest vehicles on the road. It's not me saying that. It's the IIHA safety picks. And it's not just this one vehicle they assigned for safety. All of them. Every model on the line, from the entry level to the highest end. All of them. They take safety very, very seriously at Genesis. But once you get behind the wheel, it's not the safety that becomes so obvious. It's how stylish the cars are, how comfortable they are, all the bells and whistles that are there. And the brand ambassadors at Genesis of Baton Rouge are going to do a fantastic job of walking you through the entire process. You can do it at the lot, Airline and PQ, or you can do it online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Been a fun show here on this Wednesday. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Talked a little bit of Saints football there in the last segment. LSU football recruiting at the end of hour number 1. Koki Riley is in Dallas for LSU and Dallas Baptist tonight. We'll be in Frisco this weekend for the Frisco College Classics. We talked some LSU baseball with him. It was a What If Wednesday. Tons and tons that go on each and every Wednesday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. One of which of those topics is my SEC baseball power rankings. Let's do it.
Hunt's SEC Power Rankings.
Texas A&M! That's not the right button to push.
Yeah, I
right letter to start with, just the wrong button.
Yeah, I made a mistake.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
I made a mistake, he says. Texas A&M was first last week. They're not this week. Tennessee is. They're hitting for a ton of power as usual. They played a bad schedule. Hofstra and Samford aren't great, but Liam Doyle, who was at Ole Miss last year, is at Tennessee this year as their ace. Listen to these numbers: 10 1/3 innings, 25 strikeouts and 1 walk. He has struck out 25 of the 33 hitters he's faced on the season. That's a 78% strikeout rate. That's pretty good. The Vols, I think, are super talented. I think that's a really good team, and I've got them at the top.
The Florida Gators.
We'll learn more about Florida this weekend. They've got Miami. I've been impressed with Liam Peterson at the front of their rotation. 10 innings, no runs. He has struck out 16 and walked 3. He was a big-time draft risk out of high school. The Gators got him to campus. He was one of the few freshman starters in the SEC last year. He's a sophomore now. He's a true ace. I like the way he's throwing it. And Florida's 8-0 to this point, so I've got them at number 2.
The LSU Tigers.
Got LSU up at number 3. A&M falling from 1 to 4. We'll get to that in a second. But I like LSU right now. I really believe in the pitching, and I think the hitting is going to come along. I think they're going to be solid. I'm not sure about their hitting, but I feel okay about it, and I think they're one of the best teams in the league, so I'll put LSU at 3.
Texas A&M!
I've got the Aggies down at 4 for a couple of reasons. They did lose to Cal Poly on Sunday. They did lose to Texas State on Tuesday. None of that is grossly concerning, but Gavin Grahovic missing the season is a big deal. If you missed that, he's their second best hitter, and he's out for the year. Jay Slavullet's not hitting. He's hitting .217. He will. Hayden Schott's not hitting. He's hitting .212. He will. But that A&M offense, it was supposed to be the best in the country, hadn't really shown up yet. So I've got a little bit of a question about A&M right now. I think they're good. They're not the best team in the league today.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Hogs are doing what the Hogs do. They're playing low-scoring games. They scored 3 runs in a win against Washington State. They scored 2 runs in a loss to Kansas State. Scored 2 runs in a win over TCU. Like, Gabe Gackel's awesome. Root is fantastic as a number 2. They can really, really pitch. But they've got 2 guys hitting right now, and they're brothers, the Eloy brothers. Everybody else is kind of struggling. They've got to get the bats going, and I think A&M will because they've got a track record. Arkansas doesn't, so they pitched it and not hit for a couple of years now. They got to find out a way to get the offense cooking in Fayetteville, but I got them at number 5.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
They've swept both weekends, and they've lost midweek games to Southern Miss and Troy, but I do like Mississippi State on the weekends, and that starts with Pico Cone. He's their Friday guy. Wiry left-hander, thrown 11 in the 3rd inning, struck out 22 without a walk thus far. Again, bad competition, we know. But I've watched his starts, and I think he's got good stuff. And I think that they've got some guys that can swing it, led by Hunter Hines. So I like Mississippi State. I don't love Mississippi State. I like him at number 6.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
Anchor down.
The Doors are swinging the bats right now. They've scored 50 runs in their last 30 innings. They're 8-1. They've tested themselves outside of Nashville, so they're not the juggernaut they have been in past Corbin years, but I like this Vanderbilt team right now. I've got them at number 7.
The Texas Longhorns.
Texas has 2 good wins. They beat Ole Miss and they beat Oklahoma State. They're in Las Vegas this weekend. They play Washington, Texas Tech, and Illinois. Everybody believes that Texas is going to hit a ton. They haven't really hit a ton outside of the game against Ole Miss when they scored 10 runs. Their pitching's been decent against some subpar competition, so they should be talented at Texas. Jim Schlossnagle's a great coach. I'll give them the slot at number 8 there.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
This is crazy. I've watched some video of Georgia intermittently, and their staff throws really hard. They couldn't pitch at all last year, and now Charlie Condon's gone. Charlie Goldstein is slinging it for him over there. They can pitch it better than they can hit it, I think, right now, and I think they'll hit some. Wes Johnson is doing a pretty good job, and a job that should be easier to win at than they have in recent past. I've got them at number 9.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
With guys like the superstars from last year, your Tommy White, your Jack Caglione, your Charlie Condon, your Braden Montgomery, those guys gone, you need to get to know Justin LeBron because he's probably the best guy in the Southeastern Conference and not named Jay Slavulette. You're talking about a guy who hit 2 opposite field home runs over the weekend in Jacksonville. He's a really good defensive shortstop. Like, he could be the number 1 pick in the draft next year. He is as good a player as there is in the SEC. And the rest of the team is pretty good as well. They've got a couple of guys who are transfer pitchers. Riley Quick is one of them. I think this is a pretty good Alabama team. They're 10th, which sounds bad. I think the SEC is really good at baseball. I think Alabama's better than I thought they were going to be.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
This is all about the rotation for Oklahoma, and it's got to start with Kyson Witherspoon. His twin brother Malachi pitches in the second games, but he's the ace. 7 innings against Minnesota last week, 12 strikeouts, no walks, just 1 run on 3 hits. He's going to face really good arms on Fridays in the SEC, but he looks to be up to the challenge. He's a Team USA guy, and then you know Cam Johnson is going for them in Game 3s right now. He walked a ton of guys in the opener, got hit around in his second start, but that's a big talent on Sundays. I tell you about Chase Shores. Cam Johnson's a big talent on Sundays. If he can throw it over the plate, that's the key for Oklahoma is the starting pitching staff.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Hunter Elliott, you probably remember that name. He was a big part of them winning the national championship 3 years ago. He's back. He looks really good. Spin rate's good on the breaking ball. Fastball velocity's up. He's finally healthy from Tommy John surgery. And Luke Hill from right here in Baton Rouge is clearly their best hitter. Nobody else is really hitting right now, and that's the issue for Ole Miss. But I think this is part of the conference where you get to that I'm not as confident in, probably after Oklahoma, and starts with Ole Miss.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
Kentucky's playing a lot of road games, as they always do. I don't know if that's because they prefer to go on the road, if that's because they think it's going to help the RPI, whatever. And I'm looking at box scores. I still don't see a lot of power. I still don't see a lot of strikeouts from the staff. I just don't trust that way to win. It's not to say you have to do it one way. Kentucky got to Omaha doing it another way last year. I just don't love it.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
Palmineri's leaking oil as far as pitchers go. They're winning a lot of games, and he's mentioned LSU in a lot of press conferences. Y'all see this. He went to the press conference on Saturday after they won a game and says, I don't want guys to get bored winning baseball games. It's hard to win games. LSU lost to Omaha today. Probably needs to chill out on that, calling out LSU in press conferences. But I don't think he's got a very talented team, and so I don't trust them at all. Got them down at 14.
The Auburn Tigers.
Cade Fisher didn't pitch this past weekend for Auburn. He's supposed to be their Friday guy. He didn't get him back in the fold and get him pitching well. He didn't pitch well last year at Florida. I do like the lineup at Auburn. Ike Irish can really hit. Cooper McMurray can really hit. I think there's some bats, but I don't think that the talent level is great at Auburn, so I've got them down at number 15.
The Missouri Tigers.
And number 16 is Missouri. That's just where they're going to live the rest of the season. They're losing to MEAC schools. They're playing SWAC schools close. They're getting blown out by Penn State. They're clearly the worst team in the league. They're really in a league of their own at this point. I think that I could make a strong case for the first 15 teams if I want to talk about upside or what could go right so those teams could make a push and be NCAA tournament teams. I can't do anything to justify Missouri at all. They're just bad. And so that's who LSU will see in 2 weeks at the box, and they need to win a lot of games when they play them. So that's your SEC power rankings. Tennessee, Florida, LSU, 1, 2, 3. A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss at 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9 is Vanderbilt, Texas, and Georgia. Alabama comes in at 10th. Oklahoma at 11. Ole Miss at 12. Kentucky at 13. South Carolina at 14. Auburn at 15. And the Missouri Tigers bringing up the rear at number 16. So those are your SEC power rankings here on this Wednesday. Tell you what we'll do. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more Saints. I saw a cool story talking about what the Saints may be able to do in free agency as well as the draft, and it's all addressing one position group on the field. So we'll talk about that, then we'll do some Take It or Leave It on this Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is that website. Mitchell Fisher and his team, happy to help you with the whole home audio, happy to help you with your surround sound and your home entertainment system. Make your place the place to watch the big games. Maybe coming up in the fall. If you're a big football fan, want to have some watch parties for LSU and the Saints coming up in the fall, but not super confident in the ability of your home to entertain, well, let Mitchell Fisher and his team come help you with that. They can supply a television, hang it for you. They can supply the speakers and the surround sound. They can get up in the attic and wire it into the roof, especially if you're building a home in the near future and you like to get out in front of some of these amenities in your home. Mitchell Fisher and the team at AVSS are happy to help you with that on the front end. I give you Mitchell's cell phone number every single day. There's no better way to get in touch with a company than to give the owner a call on his cell phone. And his cell phone is 225-439-7920. Again, it's 225-439-7920. Give Mitchell a call. Tell him what you want to do. He'll come out, give you a consultation. You'll look around, and they'll get you taken care of. And I can promise you this from our experience in the Palmer House. The installation is going to go smoothly. The customer service after the installation has been phenomenal for us with Audio Video Security Solutions. You can find them on Instagram at AVSS_BR. And, of course, you can find them online at AVSSLA.com.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's never been a better time to catch a John Deere deal from the crew of Sunshine. Ask us about our low monthly payment options on our tractor packages and let the good times roll. With equipment strong enough to power one of the world's largest celebrations, we've got your needs covered too. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends March 5th, 2025.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Join us at the Louisiana Outdoor Expo at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center from March 14th through the 16th. Head over to the front or back booth and register for your chance to win a U10 new canoe. I think is what it says. NUCANOE. I guess it's new canoe. A compact, versatile kayak, perfect for fishing and hunting adventures. Visit 1045ESPN.com for details. Also, you can join LSU Athletics and the Tiger Athletic Foundation for Bayou Traditions' second annual gala, a Louisiana Saturday night featuring Jordan Davis on the field in Tiger Stadium Saturday, May 3rd. We are giving you on-field access. Register to win a spot at our table at 1045ESPN.com. Support LSU student athletes, NIL opportunities, and reserve your table at lsutaf.org/events.
How'd that read go?
Well, the second one was fine. The first one, I just saw the word and was just not sure. I'd never seen it before. It's obviously a brand, so it's not a real word. It's just the name of the brand came up with. So I struggled with that a little bit.
You're not an outdoorsman?
I actually am, but I've never heard of this before. I've never heard of a U10 new canoe before, but apparently it's a versatile kayak, perfect for fishing and hunting.
Have you been kayaking?
I have.
Where?
The Buffalo River in Arkansas, actually. It's a really nice area.
Did you ever fear for your safety?
No, I never did. I did tumble over a few times on a couple of. There's a couple of.
I can't see your frame handling a kayak very well.
Well, no, it doesn't. I'm more of a canoe person because kayaks are usually pretty small and I don't really fit in them very well. But yeah, I can do it. It's just a little tough for me. But canoes I can handle pretty well. But yes, I have. I
can't say I've ever been kayaking before.
Never been in a canoe, but you had to go on in a canoe when you were a kid, huh?
I would think. I can't pinpoint that journey.
Yeah.
Went with a huge college group whitewater rafting in Tennessee somewhere. Yeah. I don't think our behavior was very good on that trip.
Sure.
And I don't know that we followed a lot of the safety recommendations, which was probably poor decision-making on our part. But that was 5 years of pretty poor decision-making, if I'm being quite honest. So it was fun. We enjoyed it. But I'm not sure that I did a lot that would be applicable to this giveaway that we're doing.
Where do you go on gala or gala? I've heard both.
That's a gala.
Gala. I don't know. I've heard multiple.
It looks like gala, but I would say gala. But if you were asking me to spell gala, I would go GALLA.
Yes.
So
I've just heard it different ways.
It's probably just something that we in this part of the world just don't quite pronounce properly.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm kind of okay with that. I'm also okay with calling an audible on the Saints talk that we were going to do here. I want to do it again. I will do it tomorrow. It's interesting stuff, and I want to spend more time on it than we have here at the very end of the show. So we'll get to that. To tease it for tomorrow's show, the Saints need desperately to rush the passer a little bit better. I don't know what Chase Young's future is, and they may need to address that either in free agency or the NFL draft, and we'll talk about what they can do to make that happen in this coming offseason. LSU and Dallas Baptist will play tonight. I wanted to mention this before we preview that game briefly. Dallas Baptist has been remarkably consistent under Coach Hefner. They are one of 5 teams in the country to have made 10 straight NCAA tournaments. LSU, incidentally, is one of those as well. But Dallas Baptist joins a group of Florida, LSU, Oklahoma State, and Vanderbilt of teams that have made the NCAA tournament the last 10 years. And this game tonight is very likely going to be a quad 1 game for both teams. I went back and looked at Dallas Baptist's RPI at the end of the year, the last 4 seasons. They've been 21, 14, 30, and 42. So clearly in the top 50 every year. Every year's different. I don't know what Dallas Baptist is truly going to be this year. But generally speaking, that's a top 50 team. And when we talk about LSU, more often than not, when we get to the end of May, we start talking about what the RPI looks like, what quadrant 1's wins look like, what your wins against the top 50 look like, and you're either matching that up against top 8s or host sites, whatever the case may be. And so this is one of those that may be a little bit louder than some others. I highly doubt 3.5 hours in February are going to dictate LSU's future entirely, but it's going to be a quad 1 game for LSU tonight, and I think it's a good opportunity to take on a quality team. Dallas Baptist is a homegrown team. Their top 5 hitters, 3 are guys that they brought in from high school and 2 are junior college players. That's kind of the old school. It's not exactly just pillaging group of 5 teams, lower level teams, and taking their all-stars and building your team up. They've developed, and they've got some guys that can really swing the bat. Grant Jay has been awesome for them thus far. You're talking about a guy who is hitting .571 in 7 games. He's got 3 home runs and 13 driven in. He's got all 3 of his homers in the last 2 games that Dallas Baptist has played. Tom Poole's a JUCO transfer, but he's in his 3rd year at DBU. He leads the nation in runs scored. He's getting on base at a 63% clip. So they've done a good job early in the season of scoring some runs. It'll be a challenge for Connor Ware, and I'm looking forward to seeing him take that on. LSU can pitch this game kind of however they want. William Schmidt's not available tonight. Gavin Guidry's not available tonight. I think everyone else is. So if you want to go Ware for 3 and then hand it off to Zach Cowan for 2 or 3, I think he can go, even though he pitched on Saturday. I think that LSU can do a lot of different things. You want to go to the freshman, you want to go to Rizzi, you want to go to Kason Evans, you can do that as well. I'm interested to see how Jay Johnson plays this, and I'm interested to see how LSU handles themselves in this game. I think it's going to be kind of offensive. I do think there are going to be some runs scored in a good hitting environment there in Arlington, and thrilled to see what happens tonight at 7 o'clock in Globe Life Field. We'll be talking about it on tomorrow's show. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It. Back.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. I didn't see this, but this was on Sunday, I believe. The Golden State Warriors played a game. I think it was the Oracle Center. I don't know if they still call it that. Anyways, they played a home game. And they retired a number. They retired a player's number.
Steph Curry, he's still playing.
He's still playing.
Klay Thompson doesn't play for them anymore.
He doesn't, but he's still playing in the NBA, so probably going to be a little bit of time before they decide to do that.
Draymond.
No, he's still playing too.
All right.
It was Andre Iguodala. Andre Iguodala's number 9 retired by the Golden State Warriors. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that.
Leave it alone.
You know, it just seems like he was a really good player on a team that was really, really, really good, and he did get that one MVP, which is probably why they did it. But I think if Andre Iguodala plays for the Hawks or the Clippers, you don't really know who that is.
Yeah.
So I'm out on that as a general concept.
I'll say it's interesting. The NBA is the only league I've ever seen this. I've seen it. There's been other players. I think it seems like sometimes teams like reward locker room guys. Like the Oklahoma City Thunder retired Nick Collison's number. He was
I didn't know that.
Yes, he was
Good
he was a
Lord.
perennial 8th man on that team. I think he averaged probably 10 minutes a game, and they retired his number because he played there his whole career, and he was a locker room guy.
That's a stupid thing to do.
I don't disagree with you, but for some reason the NBA seems to have taken this. Some teams anyway in the league have taken this turn. The Golden State Warriors rewarding Andre Iguodala was known as a good locker room guy too. He was obviously a pretty good player, but definitely not statistic-wise not worthy of probably a number retirement. But nonetheless, the Warriors will no longer have a number 9 on their team. Last one here. The NFLPA released their report cards for teams.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and we'll have a few here. First of all, the Saints actually ranked 12th out of 32 overall for the teams.
They get that nutrition center squared away where they were getting Fs last year.
Well, they are still 31st out of 32 for food/dining. They're at a D- grade. Just unbelievable that the New Orleans Saints are 31st out of 32 in food and dining. Now, I understand you can't feed them jambalaya and red beans and rice because obviously that's not the most healthiest stuff. But you would think that we'd have enough culinary
Bananas
expertise.
Foster after every practice.
Yeah,
get
probably not
Antoine's
great.
out there.
Probably not great. You would think we'd have enough culinary expertise in the city to get us above 31. But also the New York Jets finished 29th, and they got an ownership grade of F. So
that's special.
Woody Johnson, just not exactly the best owner in the NFL, but. The Saints ranking 12 out of 32. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Seems about right. I don't think the Saints are the worst. They're certainly
their ownership was an A actually. For
seems like
worth.
they're the worst at cooking food.
Yeah,
that's an easy thing to get done.
Yeah, it is.
Just cook the food
and make it tasty and healthy.
Seems doable, but Saints can't quite figure that one out. We'll talk some more Saints. Woody Johnson gets an F. Let me be the owner. Give me all your money and let me go do it. I would do well.
I don't know if you do well, but you maybe would do a little bit better.
I would not get an F.
You wouldn't let your son influence your decisions on
my business calculus grade was an F, but I wouldn't get an F at that. All right, that's it on a Wednesday. We're reacting to LSU and DBU coming up tomorrow. Matt's going to drive you home next on AFR.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward